I loved Mary and Phyllis and Suzanne Ebner and Georgette. But I was always a Rhoda. And I thought you were one of the tribe. And so for a dark-haired Jewish girl from the Bronx who was opinionated, outspoken, fantastic, glorious, you were it. You were always it. For me and just about every woman in this room, I suspect. I'm going to get through this. Okay. Okay. Because not only did you shine so brightly as a leading lady, and you went from being a second banana to being a leading lady. And you shone so brightly in that role, but what was so amazing was that you always stayed true to your essence. And I know that that Rhoda essence was Valerie essence. It was always very clear, and I'm not reading any, this is all crap. Okay. Okay. I met Valerie and her husband Tony at Phil Rosenthal's about a year ago, and her book was just dropping. And Carl was there, and Cloris was there. We watched The Last Picture Show. It was the most surreal night of my life until today. And I asked Valerie if she would like to read. And, she was in the middle of a book tour, and all of this was going on, and she was very gracious, and they took my number, and I kind of knew it wasn't going to happen. And so I found her on Facebook, but I wasn't her friend, so the message went to, you know where those messages go when you're not somebody's friend, who knows where. And fate lent a hand. A miracle happened. And by the way, if I haven't said this already, I believe in miracles. And I gave Valerie the God box. My daughter made that yesterday. And it's a God can, actually, because what I can't, God can. And so before you came, all of the women put a little note in for you. And I do believe in miracles. I do. And proof of miracles with you is happening today. The fact that you are here, the fact that you just happened to go into Chico's, and you happened to be helped by Pamela Cameron, who just happens to be a woman who writes, and just happened to tell you about the Salon again, and then say, Vicki, write her. And I did, and then she reminded you again and said, Vicki, write her. And then a phone call from Tony last Wednesday that is life-changing for all of us. I'll get to that. Okay, I can't read my scribble. Okay, let's go. Valerie began as a dancer at Radio City Music Hall. I did not know that. That's amazing. She turned to acting and worked in everything from industrials to regional theater to Second City. I didn't know that either. Winding up on Broadway in Dear Liar, the Tony-winning story theater, Something Different, and Metamorphosis. But stardom came with television, including 4 Emmy Awards and a Golden Globe for her work on Mary Tyler Moore and Rhoda. Rhoda's wedding episode set the year's ratings record, and Rhoda and Joe were almost as cool as Valerie and Tony. I want what you're having. The self-titled Valerie followed. And there's some questions I have about that, and I can't wait to ask, because Valerie fought the law and Valerie won, and I love it. And because she's teaching lessons not only on the camera, but off. Feature films included Chapter 2, love that movie, Freebie and the Bean, and The Last Married Couple in America. Movies of the week include Feral for the People, Don't Go to Sleep, and An Invasion of Privacy, which followed. More recently, Valerie toured in Golda's Balcony, winner of the Best Play of 2006 Touring Broadway Award, received a Tony Award nomination for her portrayal of Tallulah Bankhead in Moon in 2010. And one of our women has a program for you to sign. And has appeared in The Office, The Simpsons, Desperate Housewife, Sex and the City, to name a few. Valerie has received 8 Emmy nominations, 4 Emmy Awards, 10 Golden Globe nominations, 2 Golden Globe Awards, Harvard Tasty Pudding Woman of the Year, Hollywood's Women's Golden Press Club Golden Apple Award, and the Photoplay Gold Medal Award. I, Rhoda is Valerie's second book. The first titled, Today I Am a Ma'am, and Other her musings on life, beauty, and growing older, a light-hearted, irreverent look at aging. Those words seem to typify Valerie's inspiring, joyful approach to everything. Keep it gay, if you will. And speaking of which, my stylist, who before mentioned, who worked on he won't mind, who worked on Hot in Cleveland with Valerie about a month and a half ago, he was with Mary Tyler Moore and Betty White and Georgia Engel, and all of them were there. And I swear, he said, of everybody on that set, Valerie was the easiest, the kindest, the warmest, the grooviest. And I have to say, of every celebrity that I have booked for this thing, no one has been easier than you.
Now we know.
Valerie, you did what you did for every woman in this room as Rhoda is magnified a gazillion-fold by being here with us today. You are teaching us not only how to work, but how to live. It is an honor beyond anything I can imagine, and a joy and a pleasure that is going to thrill me to my toes every time I think about it. Ladies, please welcome Rhoda Morgenstern! Valerie Harper!
I was trying not to be too funereal with this. I might take the jacket off.
Take the jacket off, it's hot in here!
It's great to see you all. Thank you. First of all, Vicki, thank you for that extraordinary introduction and welcome. When I turned about 65, I started saying yes to things. You know those times you don't want to go, or do I have to put on makeup or whatever? I started saying yes. And I'm sorry we said yes late to you because it was a scramble, but we are here.
Everything happens at the exact right moment.
Exactly. And Pam, where's my camera? Oh, there she is. Oh, wearing one of my shirts. I was at Chico's, and I'm going to just tell you now, just before to my oncologist's delight, my husband's, Valerie, better watch it. I have gained 30 pounds, unlike most cancer patients, and my doctors love it. But from 140 to 170, that's not good. That's why I'm wearing
it. It doesn't show at all.
Well,
it does not
my
show
face gets real skull-like. Remember Skeletor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of gets like that. So I'm looking prettier, really.
Yes.
Who's that wonderful gal with this face and her teeth? The great model. Yes. She used to say, there came a time in my modeling career when it was my face or my butt. So I stopped with the bathing suit ads. Anyway, I am so happy to be here. Let me just I want to say something about you all. There's a great energy. There's an exhilarating, happy, and an attention. And an attention and intention to be with whoever's up here, be it Judy or Cynthia or lovely Wendy, or, you're all lovely. I just said that because she's a fellow actress. And I love Cynthia giving Robert Service his due, because I am more the generation of her dad. We memorized all those wonderful, funny poems. And if you're too young to know who it is, look it up, Google it. See Robert Service, really interesting. Of course, you're all writers, so you probably know him. But you may not, because it was kind of de rigueur in the 50s. So thank you very much, Cynthia. I guess I want to read, but I really would love to interact with you guys more. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't usually read at these, but I'm going to do 2 short things because that's your format, and that's what we'll do. You all kind of met Rhoda at different times because there's so many different ages here. I hear the most that she came through the window and tried to kick Mary out of her own apartment. I'm going to just do a page and a half, and it's the very beginning of the book. I, Rhoda. By the way, my agent said, why don't we call it I Wrote a Book? But Simon & Schuster said, Val, this really is about your early life, your mom and dad, ending with beating cancer and struggles with the... I was the first woman after Betty Davis to take on a huge entity. She took on, I think it was MGM. Was that the studio? Or 20th? And won. And I did so with NBC and so forth with my series. With my husband at my side making it possible. They said it's more gutsy. We do a lot of books with celebrities that are about jewelry and sexual tapes and crazy stuff and Hollywood. And there we like to use a pun title, but we really think I Wrote it. And also, I Wrote is kind of funny because I Claudius or I Caesar. She's so pedestrian, so every woman that I Rhoda was kind of funny in its own. So that's that. Okay, I'm just going to read you the prologue and bring some other people into the room. Because you never act alone. Well, writing is a more solitary thing, but you've got to have the listeners, the readers, and the people. As the wonderful, fabulous Alice Walker said, when she sat down to write, she said, thank you to the people for coming. She meant all those people that lived in her past and her experience. So that's kind of it. Anyway, there's some real people that are still very much alive, but I'll read this quickly. This is the prologue. I first met Rhoda Morgenstern in the spring of 1970 at an old round oak table in the breakfast nook of a small house I was renting in West Hollywood. Through an amazing stroke of luck, CBS had sent me, an unknown actress, an incredible script for the pilot of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Rhoda, free-spirited, funny, and from the Bronx, leaped off the page and grabbed me with her honest and brash humor. This was a woman I liked. A woman I loved. This was a woman I wanted to play. And somehow I got the chance. For 9 incredible years, I was lucky enough to be Rhoda Morgenstern, who was as funny and as insecure, as downright relatable as they come. Through Rhoda, I met the most supportive, wonderful, talented television family I could have possibly imagined. Jim Brooks, Alan Burns, Mary Tyler Moore, Ed Asner, Gavin MacLeod, Ted Knight, Cloris Leachman, Betty White, Georgia Engel, Charlotte Brown, Nancy Walker, Harold Gould, Julie Kavner, and many more. To this day, strangers greet me, people I don't know at all. Their faces lit up with happiness and recognition, as if they're meeting an old friend or a relative, one they actually like. Anyway, it goes on, and the thing about, that's why this recent diagnosis that I faced, I had an absolute responsibility to communicate with the mishpocha, with the full family, the family that meets me on the street, that know Rhoda, and then by association know Valerie, care deeply about her. So that's why we decided. The book was published, and I didn't have the new diagnosis. I had, and the last part of the book is about how I beat lung cancer 4 years ago, in 2009. So, actually 3.5. So I felt this book was coming out, and so was the diagnosis in January of this year. And I said, oh my God, I have to make some clarity on what's going on. Anyway, that is the prologue. And the book starts out, as a little kid, and you learn about my mom and dad. It was so fascinating to listen to Wendy talk about that childhood experience. And I thought, well, that's good. That's what a memoir is. By the way, there's not a lot of sex. I didn't have it. With husbands, maybe. And very gratifying. Maybe that's it. Pick the right guy, and you don't have to sleep around. But it was, and there's no real gossip, well, there is some, I guess, but it's kind of fun, and it's, the truth is about a memoir, you're stuck. It's not fiction. You have to remember and then write it. Because making up memories, people get arrested for that. Thrown out of of the Writers Guild, right? So anyway, but it's very, most of the people I've talked to say, oh my God, those early years in New York, it brought back the people who were in the industry a whole feeling. And when she said Radio City Music Hall, what that used to be like, it's not anything like that now. We did 5 shows a day, and a movie was shown in between. It was a movie and a stage show. And then the movie ran and a stage show. Yeah, it was a movie house. Her mouth is dropping open. That's what we did. And sometimes we did 5 shows a day. And it was wonderful. But anyway, it's all in here. The other section, so I just wanted to tell you that you'll know a lot more about me. Like darling Vicki said, I never knew that about you. I never knew this about you. And there's lots of that stuff. Because I've been as honest as possible. And I think, hopefully... as candid and sharing with different things and adversity. It ain't all, there's a lot of white water in all our lives, so we have to stay in the kayak. That's true of marriages and relationships. Sometimes you have to just suck it up and say, this is horrible, but I'm going to stay in the boat. See how, and then suddenly the water gets good again. Okay. Yeah, and the last bit I'll do, because it's coming into what's very much in the room about my diagnosis and what's going on and all that stuff. But this was at a time when I thought I was free and clear. And I am. I really am. Yeah, you know what I mean? You really are. Sometimes in your life, I am. It's not about surviving, it's about living every moment. Right. And this is a great one, and I want to thank each and every one of you participating in my life to such a high degree. And I'm telling you, the listening that's here, maybe because you're writers, or maybe you're just lovely women, and men, those of you that are here. Okay, this is, oh yes, a wonderful doctor at Cedars-Sinai, a surgeon, Dr. Robert McKenna. He invented this marvelous thing that isn't available to everyone. It's lung surgery. I had an encapsulated thing that looked like cancer. He wasn't sure. And they took it out, but he didn't have to do what happened to my poor mother in the 1970s. They did an incision from mid-breast all the way around, and then going through the ribs, lifting them, going through the muscle, to get in to take out what I have, which is a non-smoker. They call it encapsulated cancer, because I didn't smoke. So it was all in a little ball. And he went in like orthoscopic surgery. That's all I can tell you. A camera, a light, and I have 2 little incisions, and then of course and then he looked at the image on the wall from my industry, from television, and it's called VATS, Visually Assisted Thoracic Surgery. And I was back in doing Tallulah. I had done it at Christmas. I had the surgery in March, and I was back on stage in May. Wow. In Washington, D.C., because it was so not invasive. And he said, here's what I'm going to do, Valerie. Well, I'll read it. Do you think it's cancer? I asked. Yes, Dr. McKenna said. Stab in my heart. Why? I managed to croak. The shape, he said, but it's contained, which is great. But I never smoked, I told him, trying to just disqualify myself. 20% of women with lung cancer don't smoke or have never smoked. You guys have to hear that. If you have lungs, you're in line for lung cancer today. We really are. And anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going on. I should be reading. But I may interject. Okay. That's okay. I'm sorry.
It's your show.
Oh, great. I'm back. Thank you. It's your show, she said. The shape, but it's contained. I never smoked, trying to disqualify myself. 20% of the women. I said, oh, great. Well, I'm back in the running. He said, well, let's find out what it is first. Dr. McKenna explained how we find out. He was going to remove the tumor from the lung using a procedure called VATS, Video-Assisted Thoracic Surgery. He pioneered this minimally invasive surgical procedure for lung disease in 1992. While I was still on the operating table, the tumor would be biopsied in an adjacent room. If it was benign, it was already out of my body. Because Dr. McKenna said it has to leave. You can't leave it. So whether it's benign or cancerous, it's got to go. So that would be that. If it was malignant, Dr. McKenna would remove the top right lobe of my lung, where the little visitor had set up house. ensuring that all the cancer cells would be gone. And there are 3 lobes. Maybe I shouldn't be talking down to you guys. There are 3 lobes on this side and 2 on this side, so I was on the lucky side. And I said to my doctor, Arman Hekmati, wonderful internist and family doctor, I said, doctor, you can take my lobe. He said, you won't even miss it. You'll never miss. And he was right, because the tissue fills in, and suddenly, and I've never had any breathing problems or anything. So that was good. So he took that to be sure. I was worried. Oh yeah, that's it. It's right here. You won't even miss it. The remaining lung will fill the chest space. God, I'm talking to you what I've written. That proves it's true. Or that I'm a fast study. Okay. That sounded good, but I was praying the tumor would be benign, of course, and that the lobe would stay put. To put my mind at ease, I kept reminding myself that Dr. McKenna was a premier specialist in the field, and that he and his team had performed VATS for over 3,000 lung cancer patients. This surgeon developed the procedure and has had more experience performing it than anyone in the world. What was more, my surgery was scheduled for St. Patrick's Day, and my doctor was Irish-American. Perhaps luck would be on my side. During the days leading up to the surgery, there wasn't much sleep or peace in the Cacciati house. A few hours before my operation, I called Christina, my daughter, who was studying for midterms at Emerson College in Boston. Christy, I have something to tell you, but please don't be alarmed. I'm going into surgery very shortly for a small tumor on my lung. Could be cancerous. It could be nothing. I just wanted you to know what's happening and that I love you. Please do not breathe a word of this to anyone. I'm here in the hospital as Valerie McConnell. That was my mother's maiden name. Dad will call you the minute it's over. I'm coming, Mom, Christina said with her customary determination. I said, no, no, no. You have your midterms. It'll be over before you arrive. We don't know what it is. And don't tell a soul. This is just family. Tu capisci? Now, I'm not Italian, but my husband is. And that means more than you understand. Tu capisci? Right? That really means. And she said, no, capisci, she says. I love you. Keeping up a brave front, Tony had driven me to Cedars. My darling husband tried valiantly to mask the fear in his eyes with forced joviality. Just seeing how much he was suffering prevented me from feeling sorry for myself. But here I am crying. But you cry for a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's just from love. Why you, Val, he said, stroking my forehead. A good question, but I have a great answer. Why me? Why not me? I have the finest doctor in the world, health insurance from my performers union, plus Medicare, and the most wonderful husband God ever put breath into. Better me than someone without resources. As I lay in the hospital bed preparing for my surgery, the concept of affordable health care for all never felt more urgent to me. I mean, more necessary. Everyone deserved the same chance that I did to get well. Early in the morning, Dr. McKenna came to my hospital bed. Okay, Valerie, we're good to go. Yikes. We went down the hall. I think am I done? I don't have to keep going with this. You'll read it. It came out very successful. We did it. That's 4 years later. Well, maybe, but this is sweet. This is sweet here. Oh yeah, he's like, as the gurney was wheeled down the hall, Tony walked alongside of me, just like in the movies, holding my hand as long as he could. When we parted, he gave me the biggest, most encouraging smile and 2 thumbs up, and then the doors swung closed. The room I was wheeled into looked like a high-tech military control room. They could have used it on Mission Impossible. The anesthesiologist was a really affable guy, really great, joking that video assisted would be right up my alley. Just what I needed, a comic. But really, he was great. He administered the anesthetic and told me to count backwards from 10. Next thing I knew, I was looking into my husband's darling, smiling face. Was it cancer? I whispered. Yes, but it was tiny and it's out. I thought, okay, it's over, and I'm still here. So that's good. The good news was the surgery went perfectly. There were no stray cancer cells hanging around. the great news was that there was no need for chemo or radiation. I was cancer-free. And as my genius doctor said with a beaming smile, this is the best possible outcome. I was a very lucky girl. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I couldn't believe that the top lobe of my lung had been slipped out through a minute incision.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly how to do it. I thought of my mom's surgery. We talked about that. Back in the 70s, she was a non-smoker, had suffered through an extremely invasive operation. This was pre-VATS, and I talk about her incision. It's incredible how far medicine has progressed since then. With cancer on the rise, especially among women, I cannot stress enough the importance of early detection. More women are dying of lung cancer these days than breast, ovarian, and colon cancer combined. Wow. Yet 10 times more money is spent on research for breast cancer than lung cancer. That's great. They should spend 20 times more. This is not to take money from breast cancer. This is an interesting thing I've learned since my recent diagnosis. The overall cure rate for the disease is only 15%. Breast cancer, I think, is now around 88% because of all what women have done, demanding that more dollars, more research. No, the other word is foundations. Independent. There's hundreds of them. There are 25 for for lung cancer, which is crazy. To change that grim statistic, we need more funding, more research, and more early diagnosis. That's good enough. I do want to tell you quickly what I heard from a lovely woman who has a foundation. Her name's Kim Nora. She's in Venice, lost her husband 13 years ago, and just became manic about, she's not a doctor, but she knows as much as many of them about this particular thing. She said, Valerie, 60% of the new cases are non-smokers. Wow. But lung cancer has been stigmatized, as have women over the centuries, as a smoker. Oh, they smoke. And that's not the case. That's not what's happening. So I urge you guys, please, you gals, to really keep an eye on your lungs. And another thing I learned...
How did you know, Valerie? What were your symptoms?
That came while I was finishing writing the book. I started getting these funny pains, and I went to my chiropractor. Nobody knew what it was. So we went on. The book was coming out in January, and my Tallulah tour was starting in Actually, the rehearsal started in New York in December. And early in December, I was driving one day, and I experienced, it was so crazy, and you talk to yourself and say, oh, that must be the flu.
Yeah.
I'm driving on Wilshire, made a turn, and had not come from a big lunch or anything, 2 girlfriends, projectile vomiting out of nowhere. I went, oh my God. It went on the windshield, on my hands, on the wheel, in my lap. I thought, oh my God. And I'm driving, hoping people didn't see. Stupid. You just vomited like from The Exorcist. I did. Oh my God. And I drove away, and I was driving around, and I got to the house finally, and my husband's coming. I said, oh, Val, you spilled a latte on yourself. I told you not to drink lattes in the car. I said, this is not a latte. And then I was feeling fine. It was a brain something or other, a seizure or what do they call it? Anyway, it's neuro. But I didn't think of it. I thought, it must be a flu. We went on with and then I had the worst time, Vicki, now that you talk about packing. Tony would come in the room and say, Valerie, why aren't you packed? They're coming at 6 a.m. And I'd be sitting, staring at the TV, involved, loving the TV, following the story, but unable to do what I was supposed to be doing. So that was not true to form. Mm-hmm. So those were the 2 things, but I thought, oh, you're just tired. We get to New York, I get into rehearsal, and just to make this shorter, I'm sorry, it's long. No. I felt during rehearsal one day with my partner, it's marvelous Brian, lovely actor, and I said, geez, I feel like I've had Novocaine, right on the right side, along my jaw, and I was going like this, and then I had trouble with the lines. Tony dashed over, said, maybe she's having a stroke. The girl is going on 74. This could be a stroke. And we ran to Roosevelt Hospital. I didn't run. He got me there. He was fabulous. And they immediately did a bunch of tests, but the doctors could not pinpoint what it was because it's not in the brain. There is no target. There is no tumor. The tumors are microscopic and they're little clusters of cells swimming around in the meninges. You know where people get meningitis?
Yeah.
If you know what they are, the meninges are 2 layers of, say, saran wrap filled with spinal fluid, and it surrounds that cauliflower of a thing called a brain, and it's in and out of all the crevices. It is a protection against infection and bacteria, and that's called the blood-brain barrier. And it keeps everything out, including chemo. That's why I'm faced with a challenge. There's no target in terms of a tumor, and it is extremely widespread. It's all around the brain and up and down the entire spine. So these little clusters of cells can stop and set up housekeeping anywhere. And what I have displayed in these last months, since January, is no symptoms. And my doctors are thrilled about that. And they tried some the new medication. You need to know that they're moving away from chemo.
Yeah.
It's really, and they're moving toward being with each other and sharing stuff. There's a huge, fantastic thing that you would never hear about, because it's, as we say, to the trade only. All oncologists from all over the world are getting together March 31st through June 5th in Chicago. And they do, and my doctor, Natali, which means Christmas. I'm getting Ron Natali, he's fabulous. He's head of lung activities for oncology at Cedars. And I have another doctor, where's Vicki? Rudnick. He's adorable. Jeremy Rudnick, he is a neuro-oncologist. So they work as a team. And there's much teamwork going on. But the big teamwork that I'm seeing is other UCLA. You know, it's not Cosa Nostra. It's not, well, we have this and we're going to do that. It's quite wonderful what's happening in the area of cancer. And, you know, mine is incurable and it's terminal because of the space it's in, this odd place. There's very few people with this kind of cancer.
Can I just say
how
something,
the lung cancer got in there, they don't know. Oh, and it took let me just finish. It took a month or 2 to get that it was lung cancer. And that's the other thing I learned. You can have liver cancer, and then later you have breast cancer. It's not breast cancer, it's liver cancer. Relocated. And I never knew that. That's an important, you know, so I have not brain cancer, I have lung cancer in my meninges. Oh no. What? Why?
They're lung cells.
They're
lung cells.
Anyway, yes.
Okay, this is what I want to say.
And then let's start talking, because I'm through reading.
Because
And I want to hear from all of you. Things you want to ask.
I think, as you had a purpose, however many years ago, Rhoda walked onto Mary Tyler Moore to show girls like me that we could be like you and live this wonderful life and have all of this success, and that it was available for even girls that weren't, I'm not really blonde. But anyway, I think, and then you did it like that, you did it then, and then you did it again when you did your lawsuit, and you didn't sit down, you didn't take it, and now you're faced with this challenge. And look how you are living your life. And I believe in miracles, and I believe the reason they use these words terminal and all this crap, you are going to be the first person that is going to prove them wrong.
Oh, well, I know.
Don't say it can't.
Oh, I didn't say I couldn't.
okay.
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, let me tell you what Ron Natali said. He said, listen, Val, it could be a week because of where it is. Or it could be 3 months. Or it could be 5 years or longer. He said, no oncologist worth their salt ever gives a deadline. They can say, this is my experience. These are my patients. This is what usually happens. He said, but none of us, he said, will ever, I've been in this, he said, 30 years. And each of us have been in here any length of time, have seen spontaneous remission. Where the body rises up and fights the cancer cells. There's a wonderful doctor, Linda Liao, who is at UCLA, and she's working on immunotherapy. It's a whole new field in cancer where you get the your own immune system to get itself together, pinch its buns, and say, we're going to do this, we're going to kill these other guys, because they're us. They are my own cells. So it took them a while to bisect, and thank God I kept that tumor from 4 years ago. They put it in beeswax and freeze them.
Wow.
And if you ever have cancer of any kind, do that, because then they can refer back and they slice and dice it a little and send it out, do 250 incredible tests, and they found out this is lung cancer. This in your head is what is in that. So we know what it is. It wasn't a new cancer. It could have been pancreatic. It could have been many things. And they don't know how it got in there because it's not supposed to be able to. But anyway.
Before you ask the ladies questions, I want to ask you one more thing. Because I'm selfish. Because it's my
No,
house.
you're not selfish. Did I answer you properly?
You answered me completely. What I want to know is, I cannot. You're not living your bucket list. You're living your life.
That's right.
You're living your life. You're just doing what you want to. I mean, I don't know
That's
what
true.
brought you
That's a
here,
good point.
but I love that you're just living your life.
Right.
Do you have a spiritual belief? I mean, how are you so amazing? How do you have this?
I do. And when I heard Judy talking about the voice in her head, and also, and maybe it was, no, it wasn't Wendy. It was Judy. And it was you in your blog talking about, and this voice saying this and this. That's the ego mind.
And the sooner all of us understand we are not our mind. It's a tough one. It's Eckhart Tolle. It's this new thing, the wonderful heaven book. What is it?
Proof of Heaven.
Proof of
I was
Heaven.
going to ask you.
It's all these wonderful guys. People are starting. It was Werner Erhard some years ago. It was the Buddhist way beyond millennium ago, who really understand that we are beings first. Then we have a mind that keeps us out of traffic. It lets us write books. It lets us function and love people. But the mind wants to take over and say, this is it. This is all you are. You are not a bigger space. You are not. And I heard it so many times today, and I see it. And that's, I guess, my belief. I was a Catholic for a while, because I was in Catholic school, and then when I got to be 15, I heard my priest saying that God was the man's head, and that man was the woman's head, meaning superior. And I retreated. I said, Father Rocco, that was his name. I said, do you mean I have to pray to my husband? Or to the priest if I'm a nun? Those were the choices. Wife or nun. And he said, no, you can pray to God, but you just have to understand your relationship in the world. And I said, okay, this is not for me. But my mom really was a wonderful feminist in her own way, yeah. She was a nurse, she was a teacher, and she said, women, we're treated like second-class citizens. This is not right. And then, I've lived for so many decades, and things are improving wonderfully. But I had respect. In fact, when Kennedy died, I went right to a Catholic church, out of respect for him. So I don't have anything against religion. I just wish it would be in its proper position and not, regurgitating stuff that keeps women down. I guess I'm agnostic, which means belief in something big and beautiful and powerful, of which we are all a part, but I don't have I think once you start getting into the our thing, and it must be this way, then you're setting up real horrible stuff. Like, look at the Mideast. I think that's almost, this is going to be dumb, but I'm going to say it. It's almost as if we're mad at mom and dad. Judaism is the original. Monotheism, one God, to heal, Tikkun Olam, is that how you say it? Where? Tikkun Olam, to heal the world. Of course, that we're here to contribute. And then Christianity came, and confession. Don't tell me it's not Yom Kippur. Because I've been to both, okay? And I'm not Jewish, but like you said before, in my heart I am. And little sweethearts come up to me, sweetheart, darling, I read you weren't Jewish. Say it isn't so. And I say, Rhoda's Jewish. And they go, oh, good. I said, and in my heart I am. I have the neshama. I said, so that gets through that. And then 1,000 years later, after that 100-year split within, because the people who loved Christ stayed in the temples for 100 years. And then suddenly it got political and weird and said, we have to do our own thing. So Christianity was born. I'm not speaking against any religion. I'm just saying what it appears to be. 1,000 years later, these other people say, no, it's not Abraham, it's Ibrahim. And again, the basis is the same. So I don't know. That's my own non-medical thing that the kids are mad at mom and dad for knowing it first. I mean it. I do. Anyway, so religion, I respect it. I think it's great. It gives people support. But I'm not any particular...
But obviously you have faith.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't not, and these books that I'm telling you about, you must read the second or third or fifth. Eckhart Tolle's A New World. Oh my God, it's brilliant. It's beautiful. And he speaks in such a respectful way of all religions, but it's so profound. And I think that's where we are. And I think we're moving toward that in... And a lot of it has to do with women taking their place as equal partner, not as a junior part on planet Earth. Because it was matriarchy, and that worked okay until boys got mad. And then we got patriarchy, and that's not working. And so now, let's have what it is. Partners that are working together, and not... Equal does not mean same as. Not same as at all. Thank God. Vive la différence. Anyway, listen, ladies, I don't know how much time we have left, but does anyone want to say anything or ask me directly something or make a comment or anything? Yes.
Who was your favorite person to work with? That you just loved, it was easy, it was fun?
Oh my God. Julie Kavner. And Nancy. Tony, who was my favorite? Who do I love? And so many people from Second City that I worked with over the years.
Is Alan Arkin?
Alan Arkin, oh my God, he was fabulous. And he still is. He's brilliant, yeah. I had a great time with him. Yeah, on several movies. Yes, darling.
Did you always want to be an actress?
No! You see, she said, dude, I always want to be an actress. You see before you a failed ballerina. And it's a good thing given my hip measurement. No, I wanted to be a ballet dancer. And getting into Radio City Music Hall at 17, or was I 16? Oh, it was great. But, of course, the stars were the Rockettes. I was not a Rockette. I was on my toes. And hoping to get into ballet theater, or at that time it was George Balanchine, and it was just so, but I never, I took another turn into Broadway theater, and at 18 got into a show called Little Abner. That's all in here. I spent a lot of time talking about those days, because I think that's what forms us. Yes, dear.
So I just had to say this before I ask my question, that I am a mediocre prima ballerina in perimenopause.
I was just looking at how great you look. Now you do. You look like something fabulous out of the 30s. Who Virginia Woolf was hoping to look like.
I will write that
Or Dorothy.
You've already made my day even better.
Okay, good.
So my question is,
Obviously you're such a brilliant actress. With everything that's happened, what I really received was your deep gratitude and generosity. So I want to know, did that happen in your home? Was that something learned or conditioned, or was that from you getting wise?
That's a great question, but I had great parents. I really did. They didn't get along so good later, but they stayed together for the kids. Do you remember that in the 50s and 60s? And they were wonderful. My mom was such a strong believer in live and let live, and supporting what we wanted to do. And to be generous was what you should do. And I do say I thank you for something every day. I really do. There's a new restaurant y'all should try. It's vegan and it's great, but it's kind of vegan. Not complete. It's called Cafe Gratitude. And there's one in Venice that just opened, and there's one on La Brea or Larchmont. Yeah, I love the spirituality of that place without being too kooky. Because there's the delicious food in front of you. It's very basic. But I do that, not because of the restaurant, just that I love that there's a place called Cafe Gratitude. We have so much to be grateful for, just as Americans, you know? And
But when you made that video about, you know, you were getting all the support, but that you wanted us to be okay, I just found it so touching and moving.
Oh, because you're so worried. I have mounds of mail that I have not yet answered, but I'm going to. I got some cards,
But your
engraved
focus
cards.
was out to us, so I just found
Because
it
we are a
astonishing.
reflection of each other.
yeah.
Thank you, Eckhart Tolle, Werner Erhard, many wise people, and not just men. Joan Holmes of the Hunger Project, and how you create a context for something. You don't keep fooling around with the content. Well, if I move this chair here, maybe that, or maybe if I do the lawn chairs. No, you're on the Titanic. What you need to do is something that is going to help the whole ship. Now, well, my stateroom's clean. I'm okay. You know what I mean?
It's a fool's errand, right? So, but I think it was family values, I guess. A real decent public education. In the 50s, my God, the 40s, actually the 30s. I am going to be 74, so I go with the year. So I'm 73 now. But as a little girl,
Where'd you go to school?
many places all over. But let's see. First, I guess it was Thomas Edison. That's where I became a Zionist. I was 7 or 8, and I walked into the kitchen in South Pasadena. No, Pasadena. Yeah, it's here. Yeah, and my mom was crying, sobbing, listening to the radio, and I think she was listening to it was the run up to 48 and the vote of Israel becoming a state. It was. And maybe it was 47, and we're not Jewish. She's a little blonde, the Canadian, blue eyes, McConnell. And I said, Mommy, what's the matter? She said, I'm so terrible things have happened in Europe that we don't know about. And I said, and I'm just a little girl. She's not gonna tell me exactly, but she said, terrible things. And she said, these people have to have their own country. Because as long as they don't have chips to play at the table of nations, they are going to be mistreated. And I said, she said, okay, your best girlfriend, Eleanor Eisenberg, she lived down the block from me. We were in 2nd grade together. And she said, it's as if the police would go by our house, checking out the Harper residence, everything's safe. And they would drive down 2 blocks, and they would go to Eleanor's house and take her mother, her father, her grandma, her granddad, and her little brother. And we would never see them again. It was such a shocking even to imagine it. She said, and that is what has happened in some countries. And I said, oh my God, Mom. I said, yeah. She said, well, they have to have their country. I said, I didn't know the word Zionism. And she said, that's right. She said, that's how it's going to happen, and there's a lot happening this year. We've got to support these people not ever being treated like this again. And I said, yes, I want Eleanor to live. No. I did. That was my total focus, human to human. And I realized many years later that I became a Zionist at my little Canadian Protestant mother's foot. And she wiped away her tears, and she said, this is something that has to, and it's true. Because there is a new Jew in town. And it's called an Israeli. And it makes the world safer for Jews everywhere. I mean, that's my feeling. I'm not Jewish, maybe I don't have the right, but I do as a human being see what has occurred and what is occurring. And it's, also, everyone should check out the Nobel Prize list. Contribution by Jews. I'm serious. You
I really mean that's something to Google. Oh, I see. Ticonderoga. They took it seriously.
Music.
Oh, music. Every field. Every field. Yes, dear.
You said for us to be really watchful of lung cancer. What were your first symptoms of lung cancer as a
Well-
non-smoker?
None. I was going to get a wrist operated on before we went to Washington, D.C. with Tallulah, looped. And because I had to hold my whiskey glass, and I was having trouble, and I was having trouble. I had to concentrate. I had a broken wrist, and I didn't know it. So I went in. They said, "Okay, gorgeous, so cute, from Georgia, beautiful blonde, Dr. John Knight, what wonderful surgeon." And he said, we need a chest. When was your last chest X-ray? I said, "Oh my God, maybe 20 years." Long time. I went in to get my chest x-rayed, and my wonderful doctor, Armand Hekmati, called. "Val, I have to tell you something. They've seen something. Go right back to Roosevelt. I want to get you to look at it, and I want to get another copy because there's something in your lung. Could be nothing, could be something." Turned out to be something, but that was by accident.
And thank God for the broken wrist.
Yes.
Had it not been, that's why everything has a reason. Everything is to get to
I think so.
All right, we want to take pictures and sign books. I want to ask you one more thing for all of our sakes.
Sure.
Why did you say yes to us today?
Why did I say?
Why did you say yes to us today?
Yeah. I got another card from Pammy.
We love
Saying, did you get the stuff from Vicki, and maybe you could come, it's a great group. She really paved the way, and Tony said, why not? It sounds like a good thing, and we didn't have anything this morning. I didn't have to go to the hospital. I'm going Thursday. It got moved. So everything, the things kind of lined up. And I knew you from darling Monica and Phil's. And I thought, yeah, why not do that? Montrose isn't that much of a schlep.
And we got here in under 45 minutes. I thought we were going to be late. I was worried. But we weren't. We got here okay. Except I interrupted your introduction.
No.
Okay. But that's, and we said yes because I thought it was a good thing to do. Also, it was women and my dear friends from the Hunger Project that came out of Est. Great group that are doing brilliant around the world stuff with mainly third world women, but in our country as well. They just set up a foundation for me. It's called the Valerie Harper Women's Leadership. So I'm really thrilled about that, and they're going to do it in my name and, get money and resources, really. It's calling forth the leadership that's already there in Africa, all over. You can't imagine, if it bleeds, it leads in and you watch television. If a Martian came down, they would see 24 hours. They think there's nothing but murderers and horrible people. Murderers are what? 5% of the population? Really? Anybody? Yeah. If that. 4%. Yeah, a DA. I played a DA once. I said, that means 96% of us are not murdering. So it's not half full. It's like a sliver, we really have to come to terms with that and how we are invaded within images and stuff. But you had asked me something else altogether.
I just want to say that...
Oh, that's how I came. Because I knew I would have a good time. I hope, did everybody get everything? Oh, yeah.
We want you to... All right, we're going to take Catherine's question, but we really want to take pictures and sign books.
Okay.
So we all really stacks of them.
Okay.
But Catherine,
I 20 years ago, I was on a flight, taking a flight from Toronto to Los Angeles with my baby, and I was getting on first class, and I was really angsty about who I was going to be sitting beside because not a lot of people in first class want a baby, and it was you. No! I came up with my baby, and I was like, oh fuck, it's Valerie. I'm going to want to sit next to a baby, and I was like, and your smile lit up the plane, and you held out your arms, and you said, would you like me to hold your baby while you get seated?
Yes, sir.
You made my anxiety.
Yeah, I always hear it, and
Graceful and
sometimes
classy,
I say to
always.
myself, it's not a disturbance, it's music. You want to make me cry. You know what I mean?
Right, and she doesn't cry.
No.
The greatest traveler. She was on the floor and you have to wake her up for landing. And we had a lovely
That is
chat
a
for
lovely
about
story.
5
I'm so
hours.
happy I'm being properly. least in the old days, stewardesses, they were called then, used to come up to me and they'd say, "You're the nicest, kindest person of your ilk I have ever dealt with." What have I done? I have said, "Thank you for the blanket." I said, "Could I please have some water?" Minimal. And yet, I thought, what the hell are my colleagues doing? What are they doing? How badly are they treating people? Let's raise the bar. Universe, let's